The massive council chamber stretched out like a metallic canyon, its walls gleaming under the soft blue light that most alien species found comfortable. Hundreds of delegates from across the galaxy had gathered, their various forms creating a bizarre tapestry of evolution. Some floated in anti-gravity pods, others stood on multiple legs, and a few existed as pure energy contained within crystalline shells. Ambassador Taemin adjusted his breathing apparatus as he called the emergency session to order. His people, the Centauri, had been spacefaring for over 3,000 years, but even they had never encountered anything quite like this. The holographic display in the center of the chamber flickered to life, showing a small blue world orbiting an unremarkable yellow star. Delegates, Taemin began, his voice carrying across the chamber through universal translators. We are here to discuss a world that has somehow remained hidden in plain sight. A world that changes everything we thought we knew about habitability. Chief Analyst Hye-Jin stepped forward, her datapad glowing with information that had kept her awake for weeks. She had been studying worlds for 40 years, classifying them, according to the Galactic Safety Index. Never had she encountered anything that broke every rule in the book. The planet you see before you was designated Sol 3 in our initial surveys, she announced. Its inhabitants call it Earth. For the past century, it has been classified as safe with minimal threat. Today, I'm here to tell you that classification was catastrophically wrong. A ripple of concern passed through the assembly. Junho from the Vegan colonies, whose people were known for their careful approach to exploration, leaned forward in his biosuit. What exactly are we dealing with here? Hye-Jin took a deep breath. Earth has been reclassified as an extreme hazard world, not because of weapons or hostile governments, but because of the conditions required to sustain life there. The hologram zoomed in, showing Earth's churning atmosphere. Weather patterns swirled across continents with violent intensity. Lightning storms raged across vast areas, while massive spiraling hurricanes carved paths of destruction through populated regions. These atmospheric conditions alone should prevent complex life, Hye-Jin continued. The electromagnetic fluctuations from their star regularly bombard the surface with radiation levels that would sterilize most worlds. Their magnetic field shifts unpredictably, sometimes leaving entire regions exposed to cosmic radiation. Council? Member Yunji from the peaceful Aldebaran system spoke up, her voice filled with confusion. Surely no intelligent species could evolve under such conditions. That's what we thought, replied Hye-Jin grimly. But Earth's dominant species, humans, don't just survive these conditions. They thrive in them. The display shifted to show human cities. Massive structures of glass and metal stretched toward the sky, seemingly defying the violent weather systems that regularly swept across them. Millions of humans moved through these urban centers, completely unprotected from the deadly environment around them. Watch this, Hye-Jin said, activating a recording from one of their survey probes. The footage showed humans at what they called a beach, lying motionless under the direct radiation of their star. Children played in the burning sand while adults deliberately exposed themselves to radiation levels that would require emergency medical treatment for most galactic species. They do this for pleasure, Hye-Jin explained to the stunned audience. They call it sunbathing. Dr. Minho from the Tau Ceti research station raised a tentacle in disbelief. This must be some form of ritual suicide. No, Hye-Jin replied. Our long-term observations show they return to their normal activities afterward, showing no ill effects. In fact, many appear healthier after these radiation exposure sessions. The evidence continued to mount. Humans consumed substances that registered as industrial solvents on their chemical analyzers. They engaged in activities that their combat computers classified as warfare, yet did so in organized groups while others watched for entertainment. Most disturbing of all, they had somehow convinced some of their planet's apex predators to live peacefully alongside them. The creatures they call dogs, Hye-Jin said, showing footage of humans interacting with wolf-like beings, are descended from pack hunters that should view humans as prey. Instead, humans have formed symbiotic relationships with them. They share their living spaces, their food, even their sleeping areas with these predators. The chamber fell into stunned silence. Representative Yu Jin from the cautious Procyon Collective finally found her voice. How many of these humans are there? Over 7 billion, Ye Jin answered. The number hit the assembly like a physical blow. 7 billion beings existing on a world that should be uninhabitable, thriving in conditions that would eliminate most known life forms within hours. What do you recommend? Asked Ambassador Taemin. Ye Jin's expression was grave as she delivered her conclusion. Immediate quarantine. Absolute no-contact protocols. Earth represents a level of biological adaptation we've never encountered. Until we understand how humans survive their world, we must assume they pose an extreme risk to standard galactic life. The vote was swift and unanimous. Earth became the first world in galactic history to earn the designation of most dangerous world, not for its military might or aggressive intentions, but for the simple, terrifying fact that its inhabitants had somehow learned to call hell home. The delegates filed out. Many glanced back at the blue world still rotating slowly in the holographic display, wondering what other impossibilities might be hiding in the vast darkness of space. Dr. So Young stood in the center of the Galactic Science Academy's most prestigious auditorium, facing an audience of the galaxy's brightest minds. Scientists from dozens of worlds had gathered to hear her presentation, but nothing in their collective experience had prepared them for what she was about to reveal. Her hands trembled slightly as she activated the holographic display, knowing that her findings would fundamentally challenge everything they understood about biological limits. Colleagues, she began, her voice steady despite the magnitude of her discoveries. What I'm about to share will sound impossible. I've checked and rechecked our data hundreds of times. Every result confirms the same terrifying conclusion. The first image appeared showing a human child, no more than 10 years old, falling from a considerable height. The audience gasped as they watched the small figure hit the ground with significant force, but instead of the expected fatal outcome, the child simply stood up, brushed dirt from his clothes, and ran back to continue playing. This human sustained what our medical computers classify as critical structural damage, Dr. So Young explained. According to our calculations, the impact should have resulted in immediate system failure. Instead, the subject experienced what humans call a minor injury. Senior researcher Min Ho interrupted, his voice filled with disbelief. Surely your sensors malfunctioned? That's what we thought, Dr. So Young replied, switching to the next display. So we observed their medical facilities. What we found defies every principle of biological science we know. The hologram now showed the interior of a human hospital. Beings who should have been dead according to galactic medical standards were walking around, talking, even laughing. Patients with massive structural damage to their bone systems were expected to heal completely within weeks, not the years such injuries would require for other species. They repair themselves, she continued, highlighting X-ray images showing fractured human bones. Watch this time-lapse sequence over 6 weeks. The assembled scientists watched in stunned silence as broken bones knitted themselves back together, stronger than before. Tissue that should have died regenerated. Scars formed and then gradually faded until they were barely visible. But the self-repair capabilities are just the beginning, Dr. So Young said, her voice growing more amazed with each revelation. Let me show you what they consume voluntarily. The next series of images showed humans at what appeared to be a social gathering. They were consuming various substances while appearing to enjoy themselves. The chemical analysis scrolled alongside each image, revealing compounds that would shut down the nervous systems of most galactic species within minutes. This substance they call alcohol, she explained, pointing to a golden liquid, is a solvent, powerful enough to clean our equipment. They drink it regularly and in large quantities during celebrations. The footage showed humans becoming increasingly animated as they consumed more of the toxic substance, laughing and socializing rather than succumbing to poisoning. And this, she continued, showing humans consuming small red objects, contains capsaicin, a compound that triggers intense pain responses. Our pain management protocols classify exposure to capsaicin as a form of torture requiring immediate medical intervention. The audience watched in horror as humans not only consumed these pain-inducing substances but actually seemed to enjoy them, requesting more and comparing the intensity of different varieties. Dr. Ye Jin from the Medical Research Division raised a concerned appendage. "Are we certain this isn't some form of religious ritual or punishment?" "Absolutely certain," Dr. So Young replied. "They call it cuisine. They've developed thousands of different ways to prepare these toxic substances, and consuming them is considered one of their primary forms of entertainment." The presentation continued with even more disturbing footage. Humans engaged in activities that their tactical computers immediately classified as combat training. Two humans would face each other in a confined space and attempt to cause physical damage to one another while crowds of other humans watched and cheered. "Initially, we assumed this was preparation for warfare," Dr. So Young explained. "But further observation revealed they do this purely for entertainment. They call it sport." The images showed humans throwing themselves from aircraft, diving into deep water from dangerous heights, and racing vehicles at speeds that should result in immediate fatalities. In each case, the humans appeared to be enjoying themselves immensely. "Perhaps most disturbing of all," she said, switching to footage of human homes, "observe their living arrangements." The screen showed humans sharing their living spaces with creatures that the galactic databases classified as dangerous predators. Large, fanged beings that should have been hunting humans instead lay peacefully beside them, even allowing human children to play with them unsupervised. "These are descendants of apex predators," Dr. So Young explained. "Our xenobiology department confirms they retain all the physical capabilities necessary to kill humans easily. Yet somehow humans have convinced them to become companions." The footage showed humans feeding these predators, grooming them, and even allowing them to sleep in the same areas where humans rested at their most vulnerable. Council member Hoon Ki finally broke the stunned silence. "How is any of this possible? What kind of world creates beings capable of such extremes?" Dr. So Young's expression grew even more serious. "That's exactly what we need to understand. Because if humans can survive their own world, what happens when they decide to explore ours?" The question hung in the air like a threat none of them were prepared to face. Captain Wu Jin stared at the quarantine beacon flashing red on his ship's display screen. The Andromedian research vessel had been patrolling the outer rim for months, but the mysterious Earth continued to haunt his thoughts. Every report from the Galactic Council painted humans as impossibly dangerous beings, yet something about the classification didn't sit right with him. In his 40 years of exploration, he had learned to trust his instincts more than bureaucratic warnings. "Captain," Navigator Ye Jin called from her station, "we're receiving the standard quarantine broadcast. Earth remains off limits to all galactic vessels. Wu Jin made a decision that would change everything. Plot a course for the third planet. We're going to see these dangerous humans for ourselves." The crew exchanged nervous glances. Lieutenant Su Jin, their security chief, activated the ship's defensive systems. "Sir, the Council's report suggests these beings are extremely hostile. Perhaps we should maintain safe distance." "All the more reason to gather first-hand intelligence," Wu Jin replied, though his confidence masked growing uncertainty. "If humans are truly as dangerous as the reports claim, we need to understand what we're dealing with." The ship descended through Earth's chaotic atmosphere, buffeted by winds that would have torn apart smaller vessels. Their sensors screamed warnings about radiation levels, atmospheric toxicity, and electromagnetic interference that should have made complex life impossible. "Landing coordinates locked," Ye Jin announced. "Sensors indicate a peaceful agricultural region, no military installations detected." What they found upon landing shattered every assumption they had made. The peaceful farming area was a nightmare of industrial-scale machinery and chemical hazards that made their own mining operations look gentle by comparison. Massive vehicles moved across the landscape, tearing through soil with rotating blades that could slice through their ship's hull. The air was thick with particulates that immediately began eating through their protective suits. "Emergency protocols," Su Jin whispered into her communicator. "The environment is more hostile than predicted. Recommend immediate evacuation." Before they could retreat to their damaged vessel, A figure approached through the swirling dust. The human was massive by galactic standards, wearing only a thin layer of fabric for protection while operating equipment that registered as military-grade weaponry on their scanners. What shocked them most was his complete lack of fear or aggression. "Well, the human said, pulling off a wide-brimmed hat and scratching his head. "You folks okay? That was quite a crash landing. Name's Jin Woo, by the way." The alien crew huddled together, their universal translators working overtime to process the human's casual tone. According to their cultural databases, first contact, situations typically involved either worship, fear, or immediate hostility. This human displayed none of these expected reactions. "Anyone hurt?" Jin Woo continued, approaching their group with the same casual concern he might show for neighbors. "That ship of yours doesn't look like it's flying anywhere soon." Su Jin's tactical analysis was running constantly in the background, highlighting the weapons within the human's reach. The farming implements alone could devastate their entire team, yet Jin Woo handled them with the casual ease of someone completely unaware of their destructive potential. "We should be cautious," Dr. Young-hee whispered to her colleagues. "This could be a trap. The human may be assessing our weaknesses." But Jin Woo was already walking back toward his vehicle, returning with containers of what their sensors immediately identified as contaminated liquid. The water was teeming with microorganisms that would be lethal to most galactic species, yet the human offered it with genuine hospitality. "Brought some water," he said, extending the containers. "You look like you could use it. Gets mighty hot out here in the sun." The crew watched in fascination and horror as Jin Woo casually consumed the contaminated liquid himself, apparently unaffected by organisms that would shut down their biological systems within minutes. He wiped his mouth with the back of his hand and smiled. "So where you folks from?" he asked with genuine curiosity. "Haven't seen technology like yours before. Government project or something?" The question revealed something the galactic reports had missed entirely. This human wasn't displaying aggression or territorial behavior. He was showing interest, even friendliness, toward complete strangers who had literally crashed into his world. "The human appears to be attempting social bonding," observed Dr. Young-hee quietly. "This behavior doesn't match any of our threat assessments." Jin Woo noticed their hesitation and misinterpreted it as shock from the crash. "You folks might have concussions," he said with concern. "Let me call Doc Peterson. He'll check you out, make sure you're okay." The offer of medical assistance from a species classified as extremely dangerous created cognitive dissonance among the crew. Their training said to expect hostility, but this human was offering help to strangers who had invaded his territory. "Sir," Su Jin reported to Captain Woo Jin, "the human shows no signs of aggressive intent. In fact, his behavior suggests protective instincts toward our team." As Jin Woo moved around his farming equipment, the crew observed something that would haunt their reports for years to come. He handled substances that ate through their protective gear, operated machinery that registered as weapons of mass destruction, and worked in environmental conditions that should have killed him within hours. Yet he did all of this while humming, quietly to himself, completely at peace in a world that registered as a death trap on every galactic safety scale. "This changes everything," Captain Woo Jin muttered, watching Jin Woo offer them shelter from the deadly solar radiation. "We're not dealing with a warrior species. We're dealing with something far more terrifying." "What's that, sir?" asked Ye Jin. "Species that has learned to call hell home, and still maintains compassion for strangers." News of Captain Woo Jin's unauthorized contact with Earth spread through the galaxy faster than light itself. Within days, emergency sessions were being called on dozens of worlds as the implications became terrifyingly clear. The humans weren't just surviving their deadly world in isolation anymore. They now knew about the galactic community, and worse, they seemed eager to make friends. On Earth, Farmer Jin Woo couldn't stop talking about his encounter with the visitors from space. He had helped them repair their strange ship, and even shared dinner with them before they departed. To him, it had been the most exciting day of his life. To the galaxy, it represented the beginning of a potential catastrophe. They were real, friendly folks, Jin Woo told anyone who would listen at the local diner. Seemed a bit confused about our ways, but nice enough. Even liked my wife's apple pie, though they tested it with some kind of device first. What Jinwoo didn't realize was that his wife's apple pie contained enough sugar to send most galactic species into toxic shock, and the cinnamon he considered a mild spice would have been classified as a chemical irritant by galactic safety standards. The alien visitors had consumed it out of politeness, their advanced biology somehow processing what should have been a lethal dose of Earth toxins. Word spread across Earth through social media, news networks, and excited conversations, in every language. Humanity's reaction was everything the galaxy feared most. Instead of panic or preparation for war, humans responded with overwhelming curiosity and enthusiasm about meeting their galactic neighbors. Within weeks, Ambassador Hae Young was leading Earth's first official diplomatic mission to the Galactic Council. The human delegation arrived with gifts, cultural presentations, and enough optimism to power a small star. What they encountered was a galaxy paralyzed by fear of their very existence. The first diplomatic meeting was a disaster from the moment Ambassador Hae Young extended his hand in the traditional human greeting. Ambassador Taewon from the Centauri Federation attempted to reciprocate, only to have his delicate manipulator appendage nearly crushed by what humans considered a gentle handshake. Medical emergency in the diplomatic wing, came the announcement, over the station's communication system. Ambassador Taewon requires immediate attention for structural damage to primary appendage. The human delegation was horrified by the accident, but their attempts to help only made things worse. Dr. Min-soo from Earth's medical team rushed forward with a standard human first aid kit, which immediately triggered security alarms when scanners detected its contents. Chemical weapons detected, Security Chief Dong-hyun announced, his team surrounding the confused humans. The device contains alcohol, iodine, and various compounds classified as biological hazards. It's just a first aid kit, Dr. Min-soo protested, trying to explain that these were standard medical supplies on Earth. We use these to treat injuries. The explanation only deepened the galaxy's horror. Humans routinely expose themselves to substances that other species considered chemical weapons, and they did it to promote healing rather than cause harm. The contradiction broke several translation protocols and required emergency updates to the Galactic Medical Database. The cultural exchange portion of the visit went from bad to worse. Earth's delegation had prepared a presentation showcasing human achievements, including samples of their entertainment, cuisine, and recreational activities. Each offering was interpreted as evidence of humanity's terrifying nature. The chocolate they brought as a goodwill gift was immediately quarantined after chemical analysis revealed it contained theobromine, a compound lethal to most carbon-based life forms. The coffee samples registered as industrial stimulants powerful enough to cause system-wide failures in smaller species. Even their music caused problems when the volume levels commonly enjoyed by humans were found to exceed the pain thresholds of most galactic delegates. They consume neurotoxins for pleasure, reported Dr. Young-soo after analyzing the human refreshments. Their entertainment features explosions, physical combat, and scenarios that would traumatize most civilized species. Even their children's stories involve characters facing mortal danger. The movie clips Earth's delegation shared as examples of human storytelling became evidence in the galaxy's case against them. Action films were viewed as documentary footage of human warfare capabilities. Romantic comedies were analyzed as psychological warfare techniques. Even animated children's movies were scrutinized for hidden threats when analysts noticed how often cartoon characters survived impacts that should have been fatal. Look at this, observed cultural analyst Kyung-soo, reviewing footage from a human sporting event. They voluntarily engage in combat while thousands watch for entertainment. The participants show no fear of injury and continue fighting even after sustaining damage. What the analyst was watching was a soccer match, but the language barriers and cultural misunderstandings made it appear like organized warfare to species that resolved conflicts through peaceful negotiation and careful resource allocation. The final straw came when Earth's delegation invited the galactic representatives to experience human culture firsthand. They proposed a simple shared meal featuring foods from around Earth, a gesture of friendship that registered as an act of aggression to most attendees. "They're trying to poison us," whispered Representative Eugene from the Procyon Collective. "Every substance they've offered has been classified as toxic by our food safety protocols. The menu included items that would have hospitalized most galactic species, spicy foods that triggered pain responses, fermented beverages that functioned as solvents, and preserved meats that contained enough sodium to disrupt most beings' cellular functions." To humans, it was a celebration. To the galaxy, it looked like an attempt at mass assassination. As reports filtered back to their homeworlds, panic began to spread through the galactic community. Military advisors started calculating response strategies while scientists tried to understand how humanity had developed such sophisticated methods of biological warfare while maintaining the appearance of friendliness. The misunderstanding was complete. Humanity's greatest strengths, their resilience, adaptability, and desire to connect with others, had been interpreted as evidence of their hostile intentions toward galactic civilization. War preparations had begun across 17 worlds. Military strategists worked day and night, calculating the resources needed to contain what they believed was an imminent human expansion into galactic space. Fear had replaced reason, and panic was driving the galaxy toward its first preemptive strike against a species that had never shown actual aggression. But in a small research station orbiting a distant moon, Dr. Kyung-min refused to accept the growing consensus. She had spent her entire career studying civilizations, understanding how environment shaped culture and biology. Something about the human situation didn't add up, and she was determined to find the truth before it was too late. "We're approaching this all wrong," she announced to her small team of xenoanthropologists. Her colleagues looked up from their data screens, exhausted from weeks of analysis that seemed to confirm humanity's dangerous nature. Dr. Kyung-min, her assistant Ji-hoon, replied wearily, "The evidence is overwhelming. Humans consume toxins, engage in combat for entertainment, and survive in conditions that would kill most galactic life. How can we interpret this as anything other than a threat?" "Because we're studying what they do instead of asking why they do it," she said, pulling up a new set of comparative data. "Look at this differently. Instead of seeing their abilities as weapons, what if we view them as adaptations?" She activated the holographic display, showing Earth's geological history alongside humanity's evolutionary timeline. The planet's violent past began to tell a different story entirely. "Earth has experienced 5 major extinction events," Dr. Kyung-min explained, highlighting massive asteroid impacts, volcanic eruptions, and climate catastrophes that had wiped out most life forms multiple times. Yet somehow the ancestors of modern humans survived every single one. Her colleague Dr. Sung-ho leaned forward, beginning to understand. "You're suggesting their dangerous abilities are actually survival mechanisms?" "Exactly," she replied, switching to medical data comparing human healing rates with other species. "Their rapid tissue regeneration isn't designed for warfare. It's designed for surviving in a world that constantly tries to kill them." The team began reanalyzing their data through this new lens, and the pieces started falling into place. Human pain tolerance wasn't evidence of aggression, but rather proof of their world's harsh demands. Their ability to consume toxins wasn't a superpower but a necessity on a planet where pure, safe food was rare. "Look at their alcohol consumption," Dr. Kyung-min continued, displaying historical data. "In Earth's past, fermented beverages were often safer to drink than water because the fermentation process killed harmful microorganisms. What we see as recreational toxin consumption was actually a survival strategy." Dr. Ji-hoon was rapidly cross-referencing environmental data with human behavior patterns. "They're combat sports," he said excitedly. "They're not training for war. They're maintaining physical conditioning that their ancestors needed to survive predator attacks and environmental hazards." The revelation continued as they examined human social structures. Every aspect of their culture that had terrified the galaxy began to make sense when viewed through the lens of survival on a hostile world. "Their pack bonding with predators," Dr. Sung-ho observed, reviewing footage of humans with domesticated wolves. "It's brilliant survival strategy. Instead of competing with apex predators, They formed alliances that benefited both species. Dr. Kyung-min nodded, bringing up comparative studies of other hostile worlds throughout the galaxy. We've cataloged dozens of death worlds, but they're all uninhabited. Earth is unique because life there didn't just survive, it found ways to thrive by working together. The most shocking discovery came when they analyzed human responses to crisis situations. Footage from natural disasters, accidents, and emergencies showed consistent patterns that contradicted every assumption about human aggression. "Watch this," Dr. Kyung-min said, showing recordings from various Earth emergencies. In every crisis situation, humans immediately organize rescue efforts. They risk their own lives to save complete strangers. They share resources even when supplies are limited. The team watched in amazement as humans ran toward danger instead of away from it, pulling survivors from collapsed buildings, sharing food during famines, and protecting the vulnerable during disasters. This wasn't the behavior of a species designed for conquest. Their aggressive nature, Dr. Sung-ho realized, it's protective instinct. They're not trying to harm others. They're trying to protect their community. Dr. Ji-hoon made the final connection that would change everything. Their enthusiasm about meeting us isn't territorial expansion. They're excited because cooperation is how they've always survived. They want to help us the same way they help each other. The research team worked frantically to compile their findings, knowing that military fleets were already moving toward Earth's solar system. Their report to the Galactic Council would either prevent the first interspecies war in galactic history or arrive too late to matter. Council members, Dr. Kyung-min addressed the emergency session via hologram. Humanity represents no threat to galactic civilization. They represent something far more dangerous to those who would exploit or oppress others. They represent hope. She presented their findings methodically, showing how every terrifying human trait was actually evidence of their remarkable ability to adapt, survive, and thrive through cooperation rather than domination. Their true danger, she concluded, isn't their capacity for violence. It's their potential to inspire other species to become more resilient, more cooperative, and more capable than we ever thought possible. The vote to lift Earth's quarantine passed unanimously, but the galaxy would never be the same. Humanity had taught them that life's greatest victories came not from avoiding challenges, but from facing them together. As the first human ambassadors arrived at galactic stations, they brought with them something the galaxy had never experienced: the infectious optimism of a species that had learned to find joy and friendship, even in hell itself. The most dangerous thing about humans, it turned out, was their absolute refusal to accept that anything was truly impossible.